Good evening and welcome to the Friday edition of the news on DBS TV. Cameroon is ready to host the Total African Nations Championship CHAN 2020, which kicks off this Saturday, January 16, 2021. The competition was initially set to begin in April 2020, but was shifted to 16th of January to the 7th of February by the Confederation of African Football (CAF) as a result of the coronavirus pandemic. The quality of the sport infrastructure was praised by CAF President Constant Omari based on the report of the latest inspection visit of stadiums, training grounds and hotels, which took place in October 2020 in the three host cities of the competition, namely Yaoundé, Douala and Limbe. Football is clearly an integral part of the Cameroonian society and lifestyle, so for Cameroonians, this is a greatly symbolic and emotional load in the fact of welcoming the biggest African sporting event, the Africa Cup of Nations and CHAN, in its own way, a rehearsal before AFCON 2022. The government is deploying for the final adjustment and notably reinforcement of security for players and spectators, considering the unstable security situation in the country and especially in one of the conflict-hit parts of Cameroon hosting the competition, the Southwest region. Being supplied by free gravitational force for the springs of Bengang, the town of Galim in the West region is blessed with good water supply that is dotted in strategic areas within the town. With or without electricity, the inhabitants are certain of one thing: constant water supply. The municipal authority has taken advantage of this nature's gift to make sure that water should not be a problem in the town by constructing a water catchment from council funds so as to preserve the source. Although water is no longer an issue in the central town Galim, other neighborhoods like Batier are still suffering from water crisis. These villagers indicate that all they can show for are these empty water tanks that were brought by some parliamentarians, and there has never been any drop of water from them. Nevertheless, council authorities explain that the mayor is looking forward to work progressively from the central town towards the peripheries, making use of solar energy to pump water. It should be noted that the council has not been attributed any project in the public investment budget for the current financial year. As such, the council would be operating from its own funds. Out of Cameroon, vote counting has begun in Uganda, where citizens cast their ballots on Thursday in a general election that would see a new president, members of the parliament and local government representatives elected. Over 18 million registered voters took part in the polls, according to the East African Countries Electoral Commission. The commission has assured that election results are being sent to the National Tally Center despite a nationwide internet shutdown in the country. The commission's head, Simon Biabakama, said they are using a local internet mechanism to transmit the results, but did not offer any details. Analysts described the election as a generational contest as Ugandans voted under heavy security and internet blackout in an election pitting veteran leader Yoweri Museveni against a former pop star Bobi Wine after one of the bloodiest campaigns in years. There are 9 candidates contesting against the incumbent Yoweri Museveni, 76, for the presidency. Voting in Kampala took place under heavy military and police presence on Thursday with no report of violent incidents. People started queuing up as early as 5 a.m., but most centers reported transportation delays and started polling at 8 a.m. Biometric voting machines were used at 34,000 polling stations. Still in Uganda's presidential election, incumbent President Yoweri Museveni has taken a significant early lead in the presidential race, according to preliminary results released by the Electoral Commission this Friday morning. The Electoral Commission, based in Kyambogo, in the capital Kampala, announced that according to the first result of the election, Mr. Museveni has gathered 1,536,205 votes, giving him 61.31% of the votes, followed by his main rival, Robert Kyagulanyi, popularly known as Bobi Wine, with 647,146, giving him 27.9% of the votes counted. All other 9 presidential candidates are in the top seat, recorded low figures below 5%. At this stage, only 13.6% of the votes have been counted. The Electoral Commission hailed the elections for being calm and peaceful in nationwide briefing. Meanwhile, Bobi Wine has alleged there were widespread fraud and violence during Thursday's poll, but gave no details of his accusations. After polls closed at 4 p.m. local time, hundreds of Bobi Wine supporters in Kampala returned to their polling stations to heed his call to protect the vote by watching the count. There are 17.7 million registered voters, and results are expected within 48 hours. In the Democratic Republic of Congo, a suspected militant attack on a village has claimed the lives of dozens of people in the eastern part of the country on Thursday, according to a senior provincial official. The official says 46 civilians are reported to have been killed in the attack. Local security forces have been dispatched to the village in Irumu territory to investigate. The Ugandan armed group called the Allied Democratic Forces ADF is believed to have carried out the attack, as well as a string of other massacres in Eastern Democratic Republic of Congo, killing more than 1,000 civilians since the start of 2019, according to UN figures. The group, however, hasn't claimed the attack. After being alerted of the latest violence, military troops went to the village and are in the process of recovering bodies, local army spokesperson Jules Ngongo said. DRC's eastern borderlands with Uganda, Rwanda and Burundi are home to a group of more than 100 different rebel groups, many remnants of its brutal civil wars that officially ended in 2003. The Zimbabwean government has issued fresh directives on how COVID-19 victims must be laid to rest. It ordered that bodies of people who die from COVID-19 should be buried in areas where the death would have occurred as the country moves to curb the further spread of the pandemic. The move is to help curtail further spread of the coronavirus across the southern African nation. Police spokesperson Paul Nyathi said the new measures were ordered by the Ministry of Health and Child Care. The Zimbabwe Republic Police advises the public that the Ministry of Health and Child Care has informed the police of immediate restrictions imposed on the movement of dead bodies for burial in the country, he said. The measure is not well received as it is not a culture in the country where the dead are usually buried in the same place as their ancestors. There is no clarity, however, on whether all bodies would now be treated as COVID-19 cases, with Paul Nyathi referring questions to the Health Ministry. Zimbabwe, which has recently witnessed a surge in COVID-19 infections, has so far recorded 21,477 cases and 507 deaths since the first reported case on March 20, 2020. On Monday morning, it was reported that over the previous 24 hours, the country recorded 978 new cases, the majority of which are in Harare, and 24 deaths. Health experts from across the globe forming the World Health Organization gathered on Thursday to tackle new coronavirus strains blamed for a fresh surge in infections and further worsening of the pandemic. Newly identified mutations of the virus, which appear to be significantly more infectious, came as spiking case numbers forced many countries to enforce new restrictions. The committee normally gathers every 3 months, but the WHO brought the meeting forward to discuss the mutations. There are 2 urgent issues which need particular attention and for which we seek your advice, WHO Director General Tedros Adhanom told members in his opening remarks. It is the WHO International Health Regulations Emergencies Committee 6th meeting on COVID-19. The strain was detected initially in South Africa and on subsequent variants in Brazil, Japan, and it has raised greater alarm amongst researchers over its possible impact on immunity. It has pushed many countries to impose travel restrictions and confinement. France said it would impose a daily nationwide curfew at 6 p.m. starting Saturday and remaining in force for at least 2 weeks. Britain, which is strongly hit, announced on Thursday it was banning all arrivals from South America, Panama, Cape Verde and Portugal. Almost 2 million of the more than 91 million people who have caught the coronavirus disease in the world have died, but the figures are widely believed to be underestimated. In a natural disaster story, disaster officials have reported that a 6.2 magnitude earthquake struck the northwestern coast of Sulawesi Island in Indonesia early this Friday, killing at least 35 people, destroying houses, flattening a hospital, and setting off landslides. Rescuers were searching for people trapped in the rubble. More than 600 people are reported to have been injured in the quake, which struck inland between the coastal cities of Mamuju and Majene. No tsunami warnings was issued. Indonesia has a history of devastating earthquakes and tsunamis, with more than 2,000 killed in a 2018 Sulawesi quake. The situation has not been fully contained, as getting response teams to the area could be hampered by the coronavirus pandemic. We end today's edition in Syria, where 3 businessmen with close ties to the Syrian government have been linked to the company that bought the explosive material that entered Beirut port in 2013 and fueled a massive explosion in August that devastated parts of the Lebanese capital. The 3 businessmen, George Haswani and brothers Imad and Mudulal Kuri, are also Russian citizens, according to UK government website Companies House and media reports. Open source information on the UK website shows that companies formerly directed by Haswani and Imad Kuri have the same stated addresses as Savaro Limited, the company that purchased 2,750 tons of highly explosive ammonium nitrate in July 2013, 4 months before it entered Beirut port. The men have been sanctioned by the United States for allegedly aiding and providing services to the government of Syrian President Bashar al-Assad. That marks the end of this edition of the news on DBS Television. Thanks for watching. Have a great weekend in the company of our programs. Good night.